Welcome everyone. I'm super excited. Today's topic is auctions simplified. So let's just dive into it and understand what auctions are all about. So there are two types of auctions. You're going to hear the concept judicial auction or sheriff auction or trustee auction. Okay, so they all mean the same. What it means is that people are going to show up at the judicial courthouse and they're going to bid on the property, and the winning bidder is going to need to pay cash for the property in the next 24 hours. Okay, so that's one type of auction. The second type of auction is the online auction. Okay, now there's a big difference between both of them. So let's just quickly go over the judicial auction. So the way it works is when the owner buys a property, they get a loan, and guess what? For whatever reason, they are unable to pay the mortgage. So after 30, 60, 90 days, the bank, boom, is going to call them. They're going to send them letters, say, hey, listen, you've got to come current, or else we're going to file a lawsuit and put you in the foreclosure process. Because Illinois is a judicial state. What it means is that in order for banks to foreclose on the owner, they have to go through the court system. Therefore, it can take up to 2 years before the bank can take over the property. Okay, 2 years. So what's going to happen is the owner is unable to pay the mortgage. So 30, 90, 120 days go by, boom, the bank is going to officially file a lawsuit against the owner. It's called lien pending. And then time goes on, the owner still has the chance to come current with the mortgage. But if for whatever reason the owner is not able to come up with the mortgage to be current, then the judge is going to, boom, officially issue what's called the notice of trustee sale, which is, in other words, the date when the property is going to get auctioned off at the courthouse. That's simple. And that happens typically at the 9th through the 12th month after the owner entered the foreclosure process. So again, it's going to take about a year before the owner will lose the property at the judicial auction. Okay, and again, you're going to hear judicial, sheriff auction, trustee auction, but they all mean the same thing, right? And the problem with this place, when you go to the auction, is that you have to pay cash for the property within 24 hours if you win the bid. You're going to be competing with a lot of sharks, right? So the problem is that you may overbid for the property and then end up losing a lot of money. Not only that, but you are buying sight unseen, so you don't get to see the property from the inside. And that's a big problem, right? Because you could buy occupied properties, they could be gold rehabs. I mean, it could be a big, big problem. Super, super risky, okay? So now, at this point, if somebody wins the bid for, let's say, this property, they have only 24 hours to pay cash for the property, okay? So the problem with that is that unless you do your due diligence thoroughly, because you can buy a secondary lien on the property, and guess what? You are going to be in the hook for the first position lien as well. So people have lost their shirt with judicial auctions. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have cash to pay for the property. So, and not only that, you might not get to see the property from the inside. So too many problems with it. You've got to be super advanced to be able to take on this challenge. Now, the next type of auction, it's called online auction. So you've heard of probably auction.com, right? I'm going to give you the main ones. Hubzu.com. Then you have Hudson and Marshall. So Hudson and Marshall. And then you have Williams and Williams. So Williams and Williams. You have XOM, okay, XOM, XOME.com. So these are few of the most important websites. Okay, now we are going to be focusing on auction.com and hubzu.com. Those are the most important ones in the market. Now, why are they so important? Because the difference between the judicial auction and the online auction is that at this point, all these properties that go into these auctions are REOs, bank-owned properties. So this property went to the judicial auction, and guess what? Nobody bought the property. So what happened next is that the bank took over the property. So the bank repossessed the property. Well, guess what? The bank is not in the business of real estate. The bank is in the business of lending. So the bank is going to dispose of the property. So what are they going to do? The bank is going to send the property to the auctioning platforms. Auction.com, Hubzu, these are the major websites. So at this point, you can bid on the property, on the same property. But what's going to be the difference? When you buy from the online auctions, you have a little bit more advantages because most of the times you're going to be able to see the property from the inside, okay? You're still going to compete against other people who see the same property on the online auctions. And one of the benefits of taking on the property from the online auctions is that you are going to be able to finance the transaction. So you don't need to pay cash. Of course, there's some exceptions. Some of the properties, it says financing, and then you're going to see cash only. Or if it doesn't say cash only, that means that you can finance the transaction. So that's the biggest difference between the judicial auction and the online auctions. Two differences. You're going to be able to see on the online auctions the property from the inside. Some of them have a lockbox or they have a broker that listed the property. So you may be able to have access to the property. You may be able to see pictures of the inside of the property if you don't have access to the property. The most important is that you are going to be able to finance the transaction, which is huge. Not all of them, but some of them. Okay. So in fact, one of the cool things about this is that when you buy the property directly from the bank, you are going to get clean title. So you're going to get a special warranty deed, which is huge, right? Now, we have been focusing on buying properties from from the banks. Why is that? Because you are going to be able to buy the property, and guess what? In the system, in ChicagoDealVault, we have access to all the properties that are going to these websites. It's just incredible. Not only that, but we know what the reserve price is. So reserve is something that you need to understand, okay? Reserve price. The reserve price is how much the bank is going to sell the property for, okay? And let me give you just a tip of advice. When the property goes to the bank, there's usually an outstanding loan, right? That the owner was not able to pay. Usually that happens to be the reserve price, but not all the time. So guess what? If the owner, let's say, owed $100,000 for this property, but the property is worth $200,000, guess what? The bank, again, is in the business of lending. So they're going to just want to get rid of the property. They want to get their money. So the reserve might be $110,000 because they're going to need to pay auction.com or any of these websites a fee to list the property. So they want to cover their expenses. So they're going to get their $100,000 and they're going to pay off some expenses to list the property. That is why oftentimes what the outstanding balance is for the property, that happens to be the reserve price. But here's the trick. Most websites do not show you the reserve price. So what does that mean? Let's assume the reserve price on this property is $100,000. So they're going to have a starting bid amount. So it's going to be, let's say, $50,000. So they're going to let you start bidding on the property at $50,000. So once you hit 100,000, the website is going to show you that the reserve has been met. So that's the bare minimum amount that the bank is willing to take to sell you the property. But guess what? You see on the website, reserve met, but people still bid against each other, okay? Because the bank wants to maximize their sell price, right? So that's where you need to be super careful. You need to understand the numbers before you start bidding in the auctions. You need to know your max allowed offer. It's just like going to the casino, right? You've got to have a ceiling, how much you're gonna bet, and if you go over that, that's it, you're done. The same thing with the property. You need to know the most you should pay for the property even before you go into the auction inside, so that if you decide to bid on the property, you will never overpay for the property. But the cool thing is that in ChicagoDealVault, through a partnership that we have, you are going to be able to know what the reserve price is for all the properties that are on these upcoming auctions, okay, online, which is huge because guess what? If I know that the most I should pay for this property is 110, right? But I know ahead of time the reserve is 150. There's no way I'm gonna pay 150 for something that only makes sense to pay 120. Are you following? So it's super important for you to know the reserve price. So when you go on the websites, you will most likely not see that, but we are going to give you the reserve price. Huge advantage. And best of all, friends, through the inventory that we get, which is pretty much every single property that goes to these properties, we are going to be able to pull the property from the back door. What it means is that if this property is going to sell for 100,000, that's a reserve price. Online, there could be people bidding more than 100,000. So through our partner, we have the capability of pulling the property from the back door, okay? What it means is that it doesn't matter what people are bidding on the side, we will buy this property for the reserve price. And that is just huge advantage. We've been buying the last 7 properties this way. So we focus on bank-owned properties, we know the reserve, and we just run the numbers, do our due diligence, and boom, we just pull it. Now, when you buy inventory from the banks, you're gonna need 2 things. You're gonna need your entity documents, meaning your articles of incorporation, and your line of credit. So you need to be approved. They want to make sure that our partner, you are able to follow through the purchase, that you buy the property. So you cannot wholesale the property. You need to buy it first, and then you can do whatever you want. Does that make sense? Super, super important. So I'm going to give you a tour of what it looks like, okay, very, very quickly to show you how cool this is. And most importantly, we get about 500 properties a week. So it's speed game, right? So you have to be able to do the due diligence fairly fast so that you can decide whether you want to buy it or not. So we have in ChicagoDealVault this tab. It says shadow inventory, right? So shadow means bank-owned properties. So right now we got 350 properties, in fact, today. Okay, so this is what I like to do. When we get these properties, I like to do 2 things. Either I put them all in a map, right? So I click on the map view so that I can just go to the neighborhoods that I care. And the second thing that we do is we like to have a spread of at least $100,000 from the reserve price to what the ARV is on the property. Super, super important. So let's go back to this example. If the property's reserve price is 100,000, this property better appraised for at least 200,000. So you need at least $100,000 spread, and your rehab should be less than 50,000. So as you can see, we plotted all 350 properties on the map. So what I like to do is I like to zoom in on it, right? And then just focus on the areas that we are interested in. So right here, let me zoom in a little bit more so that you can see. So let me go to, for instance, right here. This is in Addison, right? This property, we know what the reserve price is. as soon as it shows on the screen, the reserve price is $230,000. Well, guess what? The ARV is like up to 280. So there's not enough meat in the room, right? Meat in the bone. So this is not a good deal. So you can analyze deals super, super fast when you know the reserve, because that's how much you're going to pay for this property. Not a penny less, not a penny more. Okay, very, very simple. So what we like to do is, and in fact, what we do on the back end, we have our business analysts identify the ones that have at least $100,000 spread, and we're going to flag them and let you know what those are, okay? Because unless you have at least that much of a spread, you won't be able to do a successful flip or a successful rental, because you need equity on the back end. If you're going to do a rental, you need to be able to, once you buy it, let's assume you finance using a hard money lender, you have to pay off the hard money lender, right? So for that to happen, guess what? You need to be able to have enough equity on the deal to be able to get your money out, pay off the hard money lender. So that's something that I wanted to show you, that it's extremely powerful. Being able to know what properties are going to go to the online auctions, and not only that, but be able to pull it from the back door without any competition. And most importantly, you are going to be able to finance the property. So even if on the website it says cash only, guess what? You are going to be able to finance the property, meaning you need to get a rehab loan either from a private money lender or a hard money lender. Because oftentimes, over 90% of the times, these properties need work, okay? Even if it's light work, 10, 15,000, they still need some work. So conventional lenders are not going to give you the money for these type of transactions. You need to use hard money lenders or private money lenders. But again, let's just quickly recap what we covered today. You have two types of auctions: judicial auctions and online auctions. Judicial auction happens when the owner defaults on the mortgage, over 9 months have passed, the judge is going to issue, boom, the auction date. So it's official, the property is going to be auctioned off at the judicial sale at the courthouse, so that the proceeds are used to pay off the creditors, in this case, the bank, okay? You don't want to show up in those judicial sales unless you have a lot of experience and a lot of cash. Why? Because you need to pay cash for the property. You don't get to see the property from the inside, so you buy sight unseen and you compete against other sharks. So the likelihood of you overpaying is huge. And let me tell you what, in all the judicial auctions at the different counties, you have the big sharks, okay? There are big companies that come in and boom, they buy a lot of property. So there's no way you're gonna be able to compete with them, okay? So that's a big disadvantage for an investor like you and me. That is why we don't like to play this game. The best place where you need to buy properties is the second type of auction, which is the online auction, such as auction.com, Hubzu.com, Zum.com, Hudson and Marshall, Williams and Williams. Those are the main auctioning sites. So the bank is not in the business of real estate. They want to, boom, get rid of the property and get their money, okay? So what they're gonna do is, they don't really wanna make a profit on the property. They just want to recoup their loan amount, the outstanding balance plus some fees and interest, okay? So what the outstanding balance was for the property may be the reserve price. So when you check these properties out on the sites, you may not see the reserve price, but we're gonna give you the reserve price. So you're gonna know what the bank is gonna sell the property for, which is huge, right? Because right off the bat, we get the inventory this week for the properties that are going to the auctions next week. So you have about a week's time to be able to do your due diligence. So when we get the inventory, boom, it takes us about 30 minutes to identify the properties that have at least $100,000 spread. What it means is that we know the bank is selling this property for $100,000. We know the ARV in the property is $200,000. So we're interested in looking at this property further. we're going to do our due diligence, meaning we're going to go physically to the property to check the occupancy. Is this occupied? Is it vacant? That's big, right? You don't want to buy properties that are occupied because they can vandalize the property. They may never move out. There's a moratorium on eviction, so you won't be able to get the tenants out anytime soon unless you reach out to them and make an agreement like cash for keys. Okay. In fact, we're currently doing that with a property in Burbank. Okay, it's bank-owned property. We reach out to the tenant. We're going to give them $3,000 and in exchange for access to the property. So we sent an appraiser. The Harmony lender needs to look at the property. We need a GC to check out the inside of the property. And most importantly, we need them to move out when we close. In exchange, we give them $3,000 for them to walk away. Okay, that's the only way that it works. And best of all, you won't have any competition because we know what the reserve price is. We say we want that property, boom, we pull it from the back door and we're able to finance the property. Even if on the website it says cash only, we never pay cash for the property because we don't have unlimited resources money-wise to buy properties cash. We always use other people's money, meaning either Harmony lenders or private money lenders. So buying the properties from Banktom is an incredible way to build a great rental portfolio, or if you want to do flips. Why? Because you are guaranteed a clean title. So you're going to get a special warranty deed from the bank. Okay, super important. So friends, we're going to do something really, really amazing. At this point, before we go into further details, are there any questions? I want to answer any questions that you may have. Okay. So either put them via the chat or unmute yourself, whichever it's easier. So I'm going to check the questions via the chat. Okay. Kalamazoo area, Kathy, I didn't understand that. So this is only for Illinois, Anthony. When we identify a good property in the online auction area, who do we contact? Is there a broker hired by the bank? Yeah, Anthony. So most of the properties have a broker assigned to it. So the bank is going to hire an REO broker who's going to put it on the MLS and also into these auctioning sites. So you can perhaps, if it's vacant, reach out to the broker to access the property because you obviously need to see the property from the inside, okay? But if you see a property there and you don't know the reserve price, we know what the reserve price is, okay? So we know how much the bank is gonna sell it for, but most importantly, we never engage and you never have to engage in a bidding war at the auctioning sites because that's where you can lose your shirt. Let me give an example. We were looking at a property that we knew the reserve was $160,000. Guess what? When I went to auction.com, people were already bidding $200,000, $40,000 above the reserve price, and there was still 1 day remaining before the auction ended. So I told our partner, let's pull this property. So it didn't matter what other people were bidding. We bought the property for $160,000. I'm sure it was going to go for over $200,000 because the ARV on the property was $284,000. Can you imagine? There was a spread of $120,000. So obviously it was an amazing deal. So we've been getting many of these through this inventory that we have that I just showed you on ChicagoDealVault. Are there any other questions? Yes, sometimes real estate agent says that you're offering insulting price. What does that mean? Okay, so that means that you're giving a lowball offer. But when it comes to auctions, there's a starting bid, okay? That's when you need to start making your bids. And there's a reserve price. That means that the bank is not gonna sell the property unless somebody offers that amount. It might be $100,000, so unless somebody offers $100,000, this property is not getting sold. So if nobody offers that kind of money, the property is gonna go back to the bank and then it's gonna get recycled. You will eventually see them back into these websites maybe in a month, 2-3 months, okay? Great question. Where does it say the reserve price on your website? Oh, okay, so the reserve price on the website, it's called Target. So let me show you. On the screen, it says target. So that's the reserve price. So that's what the bank is targeting to get. So we call it target, but it's in fact the reserve price. Great question. Another question is, what would it, does the reserve price include liens? Great question. So when you buy the property from the bank, all liens are going to be satisfied. You're going to be getting a special warranty deed. So it's free of encumbrances. It's a clean title. Okay. So if there were liens, they're going to be gone. Okay. You are getting a special warranty deed. So I love buying properties directly from the bank. Okay. That is just a huge advantage. How do you identify the two agents in charge of the property? Okay. So in auction.com, they might give you the broker's contact information, or they may not have a broker assigned to the property. Okay, another question is, partner pulled the property. What's the question? Yeah, so the way we do it is, if we're interested in a property, we are going to send an inquiry through ChicagoDealVault to our partner, Jacob, and he's in contact with all the asset managers at these websites. So we say we're interested in 123 Main Street. He's going to check if it's available. If it's available, he's going to say, yes, it's available. All we need to say is, I want the property, and boom. We're going to get the sales contract and then closing in 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, it's a very streamlined process. Now, another question is, did you get that property because of ChicagoDealVault relationship with your preferred partners? Absolutely right. So it's through our connections that we met Jacob, who gives us inventories for all the properties that are going to these auctioning platforms. So you're going to have a first-hand look at the properties that are going to the judicial auctions. I mean, to the online auctions. Okay, you get a first-hand look, and not only that, you can just buy the reserve price. So this guarantees that you will never, never, never engage in a bidding war and therefore overpay for the property. So all you need to focus on is do the due diligence to make sure it's not occupied and it's in a good location or reasonable location and the numbers make sense. Okay, that's the most important thing. If you don't have access to the property, you might be able to see it through the windows. That's been our case for a couple of properties. We were not able to get inside the property, but we could see that it didn't much rehab by peeking through the windows. Okay, why would the bank allow Jacob to pull the properties if the bidding is ascending? Great question. It's called connections. Jacob is connected with all the asset managers at these websites. So it doesn't matter because he's got great relationships and he's going to work with all these asset managers. Okay, he works with volume. He pulls a lot of properties, therefore he gets preferential treatment. That's how it works. So we love it. We're not going to inquiry more about how he does his business. All we care is that we get great deals without engaging in a bidding war, right? How much the bank gets, it's not our business. So long the bank is willing to sell the property to us for the reserve price, that's what we care about. Not only that, but we also want to finance the transaction because we don't want to pay cash for the property. Even if we have the cash, we need to use other people's money to be able to grow in real estate. Great question. Our upcoming auctions list is at least 2 or 3 months in advance before the auction date. Yeah. Okay, another question is our upcoming auctions. Okay, can you show target? Still not seeing it. I'll show you the target. Okay, another question is, how do you identify the two agents? We answer that. Your shadow inventory list and real estate agents both have the same access. Okay, so I think we've answered all the questions. Are there any other questions on the line? Sheriff auctions happening now? Oh, great question. So no, the sheriff auctions are closed right now, so they're not happening right now. They may open sometime next spring. So nothing in January, nothing in February. They're talking March, April before they open up the judicial sales for the share sales. Okay, so the courthouses are not going to open anytime soon. This is going to reopen sometime in March, April. But even if they reopen, this is a very, very risky strategy. So I don't recommend this. And not only that, there are very few groups of people. And in fact, we know the two groups that are the #1 and #2 buyers in all counties. So you stand at no chance with them, okay? Because these companies, the group #1 that buys bulk, guess what? They use their clients' money to buy properties. So you cannot compete against them, okay? It's like betting at the casino. Your chances of winning against the casino are super slim. Why? They got all the money of the world, right? So you stand no chance. The same thing applies here. There's no reason for you to risk your money. You've got to buy properties right here. Not only that, you never should engage in a bidding war, so you never overpay for the property. And most importantly, you should be able to finance the transaction, okay? Never pay cash for them. Because you won't be able to grow as fast as you should if you put all your cash in 1 or 2 properties. You should put as little as possible and do multiple these deals the same way. Okay? Are there any questions? Where in DealVault does the property? Since shares auctions close now, does that affect the volume of inventory getting into the online platforms? Okay, so great question, Valerie. So the sheriff auctions are closed. So does this affect the volume? Absolutely, yes, because there's a direct correlation. When this is closed, guess what? The banks are not repossessing that many properties, right? So if the bank does not repossess too many properties, then the inventory on these auctions is going to be low. But when this opens, and people don't buy or investors don't buy these properties, here, guess what? They're gonna go back to the bank and then the bank is gonna flood these websites. So next year is gonna be incredible. It's gonna be amazing. You've gotta stash cash. Cash is gonna be king. Build relationships with private money lenders, hard money lenders, and sharpen your saw. Understand what we're talking about today. Get access to the inventory. And not only that, but we are going to send you the properties that make the most sense. Let me see. In fact, I'm going to share this with you. This is incredible. And this is what we're going to give you access when you have access to these. So check this out. I'm sharing my screen right now. So right here, we are looking at the properties. You see this spreadsheet. So we got the inventory, right, for REOs, and we just flag the ones that have a big profit spread. So this one, let me show you. So this is the target price right here. This is the reserve price. When you hear target, that means reserve price. So this is 109. Guess what? This is going to price for about 200,000. So you have a big profit spread over $80,000. This one, again, 113 is going to price for about 220 or so. So you have over $100,000 spread. So what we do is when we get the inventory, we are just going to flag the ones that make sense. Meaning we want to see a big spread. Even if we get 300 properties, we may only flag 1 or 2. It all depends, right? Because we want to see a big spread so that we can do either a flip or a buy and hold successfully, because you need meat in the bone on the back end for a rental to refinance, be able to cash flow, be able to meet the metrics that the bank is asking for, such as the debt coverage ratio. All these metrics and cash flow and equity requirements are going to work if you have between $80,000 to $100,000 spread and the rehab is less than 40,000. That is the secret. So we flag these, which we're going to make available for you. When you have access to this inventory, we're also going to flag the ones that make sense, and you will be able to see these. So in fact, we flag the best wholesale deals. We flag MLS. If we see some MLS deals, we're gonna flag them here. We're gonna give you access to these, and the same for off market. So we analyze pre-foreclosures off markets, and if they make sense, they have a big profit to spread, boom, we are going to flag them right here. But again, we are going to give you access to the target inventory. We're going to do something really, really cool. If you have access to ChicagoDealVault, we're going to enable this inventory only for this week, okay, until Friday. Okay, we're going to do a super cool exercise. We're going to be getting properties starting tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we're going to give you access to this special inventory until Friday, okay? So I want to make sure that you check it out, and if something makes sense, let us know, because we may partner up with you, we may help you pull it, but we need to act fast. So if you see something really great, we are going to help you get the property in the contract, okay? So that's something that we're going to do for you when you have access to ChicagoDealVault. And guess what? If you don't have access to ChicagoDealVault today, you're going to get it for free today for the next 30 days. So Phil, can you please post the instructions for people to get access to ChicagoDealVault for the next 30 days? The promo code is going to be auction, okay? Get access for free to ChicagoDealVault for 30 days, but we're going to give you access to this inventory, the shadow inventory, only until Friday. So for the next 4 days, you're going to get access to this inventory, okay? So that we're going to, right now we got 350 properties. By Thursday, we're going to have way over 500. Hopefully you find something that makes sense, and if it does, let us know. We are going to help you with it, do something with it, right? If it makes sense. Because right now there are plenty of private money lenders in the ChicagoDealVault network who are willing to lend money, okay? So this is what you want to look for. The target, 173, and you want to see a big spread between the ARV and the target. So you want to see at least $80,000 spread. If you find that, let us know. So there are two things that you're going to need to look at. And when you look at the inventory right here, so you're going to be able to see that either in the map or right here. You see target, the target column, and then next to it is the Zestimate. Just to give you an idea that the last two columns is what you need to look for to find that big of a spread, okay? Another question is, oh, Dr. Saeed, how can a private money lender help a borrower acquiring auction properties? What risks or due diligence should a lender keep in mind? Hey, Dr. Saeed, it's a pleasure to have you. Talking about private money lenders, friends, we have the pleasure, the honor to have Dr. Saeed on the line, okay? He's lent hundreds of thousands of dollars in private money lender to investors like you and I, okay? So it's a pleasure to have you. Dr. Saeed, so the due diligence that the investor needs to do is obviously location, 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 okay? Super important. Right now, we should be focusing on B markets primarily. D and C, we need to be cautious because they were hit the hardest by COVID, because that's where the highest unemployment rate is, in the C and D markets. Those people don't get to work from home like the B and A markets. So focus on B, A minus markets. So location, location, location. Occupancy is super important. If the property is vacant, thumbs up. If it's occupied, not so much, because you need access for inspections, you need access for the appraiser, so that you can get a really accurate scope of work, okay? You also need to pull comps, and you need to have your flip and rental exit strategy understood. So all the analysis for that, but don't worry, because through ChicagoDealVault, we help you with a click of a button. We generate both exit strategies for you in a document, and that's how we present the deal for funding to private money lenders like Dr. Saeed. So due diligence on your part is super important, so you know how to present the deal to get it funded to somebody like Dr. Saeed, okay? We're gonna run a webinar showing you how to present your deal to get it funded. But let's take a step at a time. Get access, okay, tonight and we're going to give you access to this shadow inventory until Friday. If something makes sense, we are going to help you create a report so that we get funding from a private money lender. Okay, so we're going to do the flip, the rental strategy, we're going to pull comps, we're going to do the due diligence on the location, the neighborhood, making sure it supports your exit strategy, and most importantly, obviously, the occupancy. We want to make sure that it's vacant. Okay, great question. Thank you for joining, Dr. Said. Another question is, current expected ARV can be reduced after 4 to 6 months? Absolutely. If we're going to have declining values in 6 to 12 months from now, because when the courts open, guess what? You're going to have a lot more inventory coming into the system. Therefore, property prices are going to correct themselves. So please be aware that you're going to have declining values up to 15% next year for the next 2 years, 3 years. Okay, great question, Vishal. So, Phil, please post the instructions for people to get free access to ChicagoDealVault for the next 30 days. And on top of that, if you have access to DealVault, once you have access to DealVault, we're going to give you access to this great inventory until Friday. Okay, so we have 43 people on the line. I want all 43 people to have access to this inventory until Friday, because we're going to be adding hundreds of properties as we speak until Thursday. So by Friday, if you found something really great, please let us know. We're going to help you do the due diligence. We're going to help you present it to get it funded, and perhaps we do a deal together, right? So make sure that you have access tonight. And we are also going to send you the deals that we flag as great deals. If that's an area that you're interested in, that's awesome, because that could be your first deal, okay? Dr. Said, I'm not sure your question. Should the lender take care of that? Was answered.
Hugo, Vishal,
spread
thank you so much for having
will
me.
be reduced. So yeah, when we pull comps, you have to be very
question.
conservative on the ARV, okay? But we're gonna run just an event on presenting the deal to get it funded from private money lenders, okay? And we're gonna do step by step on how you need to piece it all together to get funded for your deals. Because guess what? We're doing 2 transactions right now, and they're both being funded by private money lenders. So I'm gonna show you how you need to present your deals to get them funded by private money lenders. But the key thing is to get a great deal that has $100,000 spread, and the rehab is not a good rehab. Okay, that's pretty much in a nutshell the secret. So thank you, everyone. Great questions tonight. Please post instructions for people to get access to ChicagoDealVault for free. And if you already have access to ChicagoDealVault, please send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com, and we're going to enable the shadow inventory. So you're going to see on your screen a tab that says shadow inventory. That is the inventory that is going to go to these websites next week. So we need to do our due diligence like very fast. We have like 5 to 7 days to do the due diligence to know if it makes sense or not. Because if not, it's going to be too late. They're going to go to the auction and boom, they're going to be gone. So you have to act fast. Speed is the name of the game when you have access to great deals. Okay.